another planet to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family and explorers of consciousness. I live like one.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm Joe Roop. We're live on the Fringe FM. It's Wednesday, July the 1st, and Dr. Thoresen is here with us. That's right. We're going to be talking about some really, really cool stuff. His new book, it's out now, about translocation, an overlooked aspect of medicine, life, and spirituality, and an important tool when entering the spiritual world. So we're going to talk all about translocation. He's also written books about spirituality, demonology, medicine, all kinds of stuff. Their website is rthoresen.com. I'll drop those links down for you into the chat room. If you want to join our chat room, the Discord server is thefringe.fm/chat room. That's it. That's how you get in there. And speaking of which, as far as the phones go, if you want to call into the show, you're going to have to call 501-777-5631. That's going to be how you get into the show. So I think that this is going to be a pretty important conversation, because I think a lot of us think we know all about spirituality and all about stuff, but I mean, there's a scientific approach to this stuff, and it's really cool to look at. Even want to talk a little bit tonight about demonology. You know, like, what are these things? Do they mess with your head? A lot of times people say, like, demons are energy. Is that what they really are? What's really going on there? We're going to get into that and more as well. I want to thank our sponsors at getthetea.com, as well as ancientlifeoil.com and Metaphorical Archaeology. I hope you guys are taking advantage of that, because Barbara is giving out free sessions to anybody that's had a paranormal experience that's caused you any type of trauma or post-traumatic stress. And you can give her a call at 214-995-3754. Also, head over to ufoseekers.com. For the only reason in the world is to, if you study ufology, that's the only people you need to follow, period. UFO Seekers, at UFO Seekers on Twitter. And you can go to youtube.com/UFO Seekers as well. They got all their videos are back up there as well. So, yeah, I don't think we have any announcements, so I want to get on with this, because I think this is going to be a pretty deep discussion. Now, Dr. Thoresen was born and Norway in 1952, a doctor of veterinary medicine. And he has also studied anthroposophic medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, osteopathy, and agriculture. And since 1981, he has run a private holistic practice in Sandefjord, Norway, for the healing of small animals and horses as well as people. And he has lectured widely, specializing in veterinary acupuncture, and has published dozens of scholarly articles. And in 1984, he started to treat cancer patients, both human and animals, and his work has been the focus of much of his recent research. But he is the author of Demons and Healing and several other books on complementary medicine published in various languages. And it's 6 a.m. where he's at right now. So thank you for joining us. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, translocation, when I hear that word, that's not about is that about separating the spirit from the body, or is that something bigger? Is when we hear the word translocation, what exactly are we talking about according to your work and your book here?
Well, of course, translocation means just to move from one place to another. And it can be used in many connections, but in what I use it is in the connection of diseases and medicine and healing and treatment. And this is quite a long story, but I will start sort of with a little story from the last year where I have started to lecture about these things.
Okay.
These things are actually, to be quite concrete, when you treat a person, then there is a huge chance that the disease entity or the disease pattern or you might call it the information of the disease just jump over to another person and make this other person sick in a while. And when I started have seen this for 20, 30 years in my practice because I have a certain clairvoyance. But I didn't start to talk about it because I didn't know how to do it. Because all treatment, all persons, acupuncturists, normal doctors, homeopaths, craniosacral therapists, and so on, they do it. They are the cause of actually this disease information, or whatever you might call it, is transferred to another person. Then first time I talked about it was in London. Then I talked about it in Berlin. Then I talked about it in Ratvav in Poland. Then I talked about it in southern Italy. And every time there was one or two Chinese doctors or veterinarians, either from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, or from mainland China, they stood up or talked to me after the lecture and said, yes, we know this. We know this. We just haven't told you. We just keep it to ourselves.
Really?
Because it because it is so sort of unbelievable and ridiculous, and it sort of take away the power we have by knowing acupuncture and so on. And one doctor from Taiwan, she told me even that yes, we accepted that we transfer diseases to others, but those of us who are most sort of moral, they try to get this disease go into some animal, or even some try to take it on themselves, but they, and quotes, she said, they get much sick and live often not so long. And then I looked upon her, so you know it, and why don't you then change your medical system? I told her, and then, her Chinese eyes, which are relatively small, they got like big O's, big like
how can we change the medical system, right?
Change the system. You don't say that to a Chinese, because they are so sort of in the system, especially the medical system, which we are also in our system. But
that's fascinating because, in medicine right now, especially with COVID, they're still trying to find cures and antibodies and all of these things for this massive virus that keeps spreading that they're not giving us clear answers on. And I wonder if this is like the first time something really is happening. So what you're saying is I could have a disease, and just because someone is near me, I could actually, just because I have it, how does that work? Like, how does it transfer to the next person that way?
Yeah, that is a good question because, well, diseases with bacteria and virus, we do know. They go from one person to another. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But they don't leave. They don't. That is not what I'm talking about. Let's say you have the flu or the corona, and then you give it to another. You are not then. You don't get rid of it. By the way, I had corona for 4 months before I got over it. So I know that disease also quite well. But what I talk about is actually diseases like kidney problem, pain in the head, headache, migraine, liver problems, swollen legs, all other kinds, not infectious diseases.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
That was just the starting. So to explain it to you, I will start with the beginning, I guess, to explain it. Because when I started up as a veterinarian when was it? 1979. I'm that old, yes.
That's fine.
Then I realized very soon which many dog owners said yes. One woman said, I had a dog and it got cancer. Then I got a new dog and it got cancer. Then I got a third dog and it got cancer. And I was so sorry to lose all the dogs. So I decided not to have any more dogs. And then I myself got cancer.
Wow.
And quite many dog owners have seen when something happened to them or something changed, then it also changed to the animals. And as a veterinarian, I observed very early, already from 1981 or 82, that when a person bought or got a dog or cat or horse or whatever, after 3 days, the animal had the same deficiency as the owner. Deficiency means a weakness of a certain process or a certain muscle or a certain tissue.
Right.
So after 3 days, and I was wondering, how can that be? What is the technique? What is the mechanism behind this? I didn't actually understand that until I started to, as I told you, I had a certain clairvoyance. I started to see these things, and I saw several times that something jumped over from the owner to the animal. Now I must add that in very many schools, of which I have been aware of later, schools of acupuncture and craniosacral therapy, osteopathy, tai chi, qigong, and so on, the practitioners are instructed how to behave, not to attract the disease of their patients, defend themselves towards what they call bad energies.
Right.
So and that is in the West, in here, even in Norway. So when the therapists or practitioners are aware that something, I just say something for the time being, might jump over to them when they treat the patient. They accept that, and quite many know that and have experienced that. Then why is it so difficult to understand that this disease may as well jump over to somebody else?
Yeah, so this kind of reminds me of some of the Renaissance texts, or maybe even when you look into like alchemy or Paracelsus, or back in the day before medicine actually even became modern medicine, how they would talk about those types of things. But you actually, you saw this thing jump, like with your vision, or maybe a psychic vision, or a vision that you saw it move from one thing to the next.
I thought it was at that time with my material eyes. Yes.
Wow, that's a pretty scary thought, doctor. I'm just saying, for us that live in the real world that depend on modern medicine, maybe we need to take a different look at this if that's what's going on now. If that's the case, and you know that that's the case, then how do you treat translocation? How do you stop it?
You have to transform and not translocate. It's actually quite obvious. If you have a problem, it's your problem. You have to deal with it. You have to transform it. It's like a psychological, let's say you have a tendency to violence or something. And then you have a friend, or you have a group of friends, or your pals, or whatever, children, and then you sort of, if you don't transform this tendency to violence, if you don't deal with it, you give it further. You give it on to your children or friends. You know, it's psychologically very easy to understand. But if you manage to transform it, change it, then you have done something important for the world. And this, when I more and more realized this, I first thought, is it only me? And then I got this, all Chinese doctors, that deal with acupuncture and such like, they say, yeah, we know it. And I found it in the old books. I asked a friend of mine, he was a professor in Australia in TCM, Traditional Chinese Medicine. I said, is there anything in the old books? Oh, yes, he said. They talk about if you treat with acupuncture, you transfer the disease to somebody else, somebody less strong. That's why they didn't care about it in old days, because let's say it went from men to women to children, from the alpha human to the beta human to the gamma, and so on. You know, it went from the ruler to the slaves. And at that time, that was okay. But in our times, it's not okay anymore. So everyone who go to an easy fix, to an acupuncturist or a doctor, should actually consider that this act is not moral. I see it also in human medicine. In school medicine. When you treat with antibiotics or cortisone, and you just take away the symptoms, they don't disappear. According to quantum physics, a pattern, an informational package of information cannot disappear. It can only translocate or transform. It cannot disappear. Information can never disappear.
So would that so I don't know if you're familiar with like the Book of Solomon, but there was I don't know, was it the Song of Solomon or the Testament of Solomon? And I know it sounds crazy to some, but in that book there were names of demons that he talked about, and they talked about each kind of illness or disease that they would put onto people. And you think, well, you know, that's crazy, that's folklore, that's not real, right? But I mean, if you saw this with your own eyes, and then you heard, and then these other practitioners are telling you, yeah, we're aware of this, but what can we do about it? That's a pretty scary thought. I think most of us need to kind of look into this, right? Because
you know, the whole medical system is actually based on translocation. The whole cancer treatment, the hospitals, everything. It actually, when you talk about when you talk about what is theories of what's the name, especially in America now, conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
This is actually the biggest conspiracy theory I know. I wrote an email to Elina Friedman and the dark journalist and said, don't talk about these small things. Talk about what is actually one of the main sources of disease and what cost us as a society huge amount just to transfer diseases from one person to another. It doesn't actually help anything. That is something to talk about. But I didn't even answer.
Yeah, well, didn't Rudolf Steiner believe in this stuff too? Like a lot of people that the dark journalists talk about. I mean, the old Rosicrucians, they believed in this stuff. Yeah, I mean, the alchemists, there were several alchemists that talk about these types of things. Somewhere along the line, I think we lost that. Like, I was talking to a guy that was on the show, and he was explaining that, you know, Paracelsus was healing people with certain medicines and before things turned into modern medicine, but he was also using, you know, spirituality, astrological alignments, things of that nature, curing diseases. But when everything started turning into synthetic medicine, we lost all of these things somewhere along the way.
But it is so easy to talk about Paracelsus and old times and Salomon and all this, you know.
Yeah.
And then we have this backache and we go to the osteopath and get treated and don't think about it. It doesn't concern us really. It's almost like we deal with these things in a historic view and actually don't really believe in it today.
Yeah, like we get a backache, go to the doctor. He's like, oh, well, here's some hydrocodones or whatever. And then not only do you got a backache, you got a monkey on your back of pain medicine now. When you just need to get rid of the is it an energy or is it a spirit that's doing this?
Then we come. That was actually the second question I asked myself. What is going over? What is it? And because it could be, you can call it energy. Quite many say bad energy, jump over, bad energy. And you can actually call it bad energy. You can call it whatever you want, but it is, let's say, it is bad energy with informational structure. And that makes it actually an entity.
Bad energy with an informational structure. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So if you have an energy and you have a structure, well, that is a living being. And that is an entity. And in old times, they call this living being, this entity, for a demon because it caused trouble. And that's why the first book I wrote was actually about demons. And my experience with demons through my life, what I have seen, what I've experienced, and so on. And then I described in other books sort of this demon's effect in disease, how we create these spiritual entities by our way of living, thinking, cheating, lying, and so on. Then we create them. Then we get sick, and the sickness appear always in the weakest first. That is what psychologists say. If a child of the family is sick, it's usually his parents that are the cause. And then that these, of course, when they are pressed out by some technique, it can be a laser or acupuncture and osteopathy or something, they are sort of it's made difficult for them to inhabit that body. Then it's described in the Bible even. Then they go out and they roam around and find another host. Or they come back. That is also known, when if you treat a person and it's okay for half a year and then suddenly it comes back.
Well, well, we got to take a break here. I'll ask you some more questions about this, because how do we deal with it? Yeah, right. Like, how do we deal with it? Like, there are situations that we don't want to be around. Like, we don't want to be around this stuff. I mean, if you're around, like, say, a family member or somebody that's plagued by something, whether it's psychologically, mentally, physically, whatever, and how do you, like, not get, like, you don't want this stuff, right? So how do you make sure that it doesn't jump from there to you? Like, what do you do in that scenario?
Yeah, we will talk about that more.
Yeah, let's wait till after the break to talk about it. I'm sure that's a much
longer. Is the break?
Yeah, we're going to take a break right now. There's probably a lot more to talk about in that anyways. Look, we'll be right back. Dr. R. Thoresen, stay with us.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
All right, man. This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. The tea that makes you go.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
All right, welcome back. Translocation is the name of the book. We're here with the author, Dr. R. Thoresen, and this is some fascinating stuff. So before the break, if you're just tuning in, we were discussing how that some of these diseases or sicknesses that we have, how he found out that a lot of these were being translocated from human to human, animal to animal. He actually had an experience where he saw this. Some of these doctors told him about it, and you reached out to others and tried to, get them to talk about it. And this is really interesting, but also kind of scary in a way, because we don't want to pick up on someone else's bad energy. I mean, I have a cat, what if the cat's got something I don't know about? So is there some type of protection that you do every day to make sure that you don't catch these or get anything that translocate to you, Dr. Thoresen?
Yeah, just to correct you a little, you said some diseases, and that I saw once that it's almost all diseases are transferable, and I didn't see it once. I've seen it 1,000 times, and when I make my veterinary colleagues aware of it, they actually have observed it also a lot, but they haven't sort of been aware that it can be explained that way.
Okay.
For example, and I can also calm you down. The diseases, as I said at the last chapter there, is going from the strong to the weak. So very seldom it goes from the animal to the human. It goes from the human to the animal, and from the alpha person in the family to the beta person, and so on, and end up with the children.
Gotcha.
And for example, I give you one example. There was a man in Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, as maybe you don't know, who had 2 French bulldogs, and they suddenly get an eczema that was scratching and scratching and scratching. And well, if he gave them cortisone, of course it got better, but it didn't really get better. And then he came down to where I live, a few hours away from Oslo. And then I investigated small dogs, and I found that they both had, you might say, a bad energy or demonic entity or in the heart. And that gave the scratch. And then I asked the man, okay, how long has it lasted? Oh, it lasted for 2 years. And then I said, okay, what happened to you 2 years ago? And then he almost started to cry and said, then the love of my life left me. Oh. And then just after that, the 2 dogs started to scratch, had an eczema. So then I sort of treated the man. I talked with him, said that he had to blah, blah, blah. I treated his heart. all in 2-3 weeks, the eczema was gone in both dogs. So you see, this happens all the time when we do something wrong or get in something problem and so on and so on. To lose the love of one's life is not wrong, but of course it creates something wrong in the body, in the soul, the feeling. Then these go immediately over to our dogs or cats or horses.
You know, that's okay. So if I give you an example of my family, my uncle got or got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, right?
Yeah.
And then my cousin, which was his daughter, Christy, and he had 4 daughters, got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then my grandmother, and she ended up passing away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or Hodgkin's disease. Now the hospital wanted to do tests on our family because they said that this type of cancer wasn't genetic. It wasn't in other words, it didn't get passed down through the genes, so they wanted to run tests to see if they were right or whatever. I wonder sometimes if that's what was going on there, you know.
Yes. But you see, not only that, it is all diseases, and it does not have to show up as the same symptoms. Let's say a woman has a cystitis, bladder problem. She go to a doctor or an acupuncturist or whatever, got the medicine for it, and get sort of instantly cured or quickly cured. And then 3 months later, her husband come up with a prostatitis or a backache or a headache or whatever, or the neighbor or the postman. So this is actually very, you cannot decide where it goes, because those who attract it, they have a weakness in which this energy can go in. So the best way to protect you is to be in balance, of course, and control your energy, but that is not easy to do. We all have our weaknesses, so we can attract quite much.
Yeah.
But when you have this bad energy, there is only, in my opinion, one moral way to deal with it, and that is to transform it and not pass it on. Because when you pass it on, the number of disease in the world will never stop, you know. As much as you treat cancer today, it gets more and more. If you can transform this energy, then you have actually dealt with the problem.
So, okay. So then like for the past week, I kept getting these headaches. I don't know what you call them, but they weren't really headaches. I would get these little squiggly lines in my eyeball, and then a headache would follow. It was like some type of migraine that I used to get once or twice a year like that. But for some reason this year, just this last week, I got like 1 every day or 2 a day or 3 a day. And then it really started freaking me out. But I got to thinking that maybe, and I know this sounds kind of crazy to some folks, but maybe it sounded like some kind of attack or something was actually latching on to me. So I did some like meditations and cleansings and things like that, and it hasn't been back since. So I wonder if of course I did prayer too, because I always do prayer, but I wonder if that's what happened there, because I got desperate, you know, to be honest with you, pretty desperate to get rid of it.
All diseases are coming. They are almost all, I must say, because let's say you get a brick in the head, that's not really, it's all internal diseases, I must say, that is caused by these bad energies or entities coming from somewhere or being created by yourself. And you say this cleansing, that is also interesting, because quite many of this cleansing, or as acupuncture or craniosacral or massage, they pass it on. They don't really transform it.
Yeah. See, I got a friend that was a chiropractor, and she was like, I had to get away from that because she was real sensitive to other people's energies. Like it affected her, Yeah. And I see all this stuff starting to make sense. But all you're saying is that we need to learn to balance our energies. Now, why is that difficult? Is it just diet or meditation, or how do you go about doing that?
Well, that is very individual. You cannot actually say that is how to do it, that is how to do it. That is, sometimes I even don't know how I do it, but I have been my whole life aware of that. Yeah. For example, even when I was 16, I was climbing in the Norwegian mountains, and I fell down and I crushed 2 vertebrae, and I was paralyzed in part of my back. And the doctor said I would end in a wheelchair, and that was 16. So I was sure that when I had understood or changed the cause of this fall, it would disappear. So I went with constant pain for 10 years maybe. And then one night I woke up and a person came floating through the air towards me, put his hands on my back. I felt an enormously warmth, and all problems were gone.
Wow.
So then I had maybe I should learn patience, because it took 10 years. I didn't go to treatment because I was sure I had to learn. And that is also one thing. I think everybody have a disease to learn something. And when they have learned that or done it correctly, then it disappears. But most do not wait for that. They take painkillers, they do medication, they go to therapy. They don't do anything themselves. They lie on a bench with needles. They don't change. And then it is passed on. You have sort of to do something, change something, usually morally within yourself. That can change this demonic structure.
So, that's interesting, because I come from a family of a long line of that's got a lot of things like that, and back pain stuff like that. But I have noticed, like, there's 2 types of people in the world, right? Well, not 2 types, but there's these people that are like positive, bright, happy, just go lucky beings that are full of energy and, exercise. And then when you get around people that are just bitter and just pissed off at the world all the time, you never notice, like, man, what's wrong with you? And a lot of times they'll say, well, I got this back pain or this old knee injury. And you think, is that what's causing you to be so pissed off all the time? Or maybe it's the other way around.
Well, you don't have, you have to look upon what happens to you as that is what you need. Karma comes in here very deeply, of course.
Yeah.
When you have something done or mistakes done, created sort of open space in you or some darkness, then these entities or these energies come in there, and then they create a disease. And then you have to deal with this. They are actually our helpers to deal with our emptiness, and of course, when we then don't deal with it, then we get grumpy. If we look upon it, oh, poor me, I have this headache.
Yeah, right.
And then I discussed this with a friend of mine who worked in a hospital, and he said, well, it might be right what you say, but you cannot tell people that. They are sick, they lie in the hospital. Maybe they have cancer, and you come and say, well, it's actually your fault. You cannot say it. And I said, but you have to say it. But because then they go on without knowing it. But this is a problem. A friend of mine who is a priest in the hospital, going around, talking to patients.
Yeah.
She said that we are instructed never to talk about disease as a reaction to bad life or lying or whatever, because that is so wrong. When you are sick, you only shall have good words and being comforted. Never anybody should question, maybe you should change something, even if you lie with a lung cancer smoking. You shouldn't say, maybe you should stop smoking. There it is quite obvious. But nobody this is not easy to say.
Well, that's an obvious one, right? Lung cancer and smoking. And it's surprising to me how many people still do that after they get lung cancer, right? They just keep on smoking, and they already think, well, I'm dead, so might as well forget about it, right? And they just let themselves go. But do you think that the human body could last longer than 100? If we understood this, right? Do you think the human body could last much longer, like well past 100 years, if we understood this?
I think we live as long as we need. I think this earth is a learning place, not necessarily as long as possible. That has nothing with the intention to do, I think. When we have learned what we need to learn, then we die and go on.
Well, so I'll give you an example. Last night I was talking to the guest, Anthony Tyler, and we were discussing the case of Anneliese Michel, who was a famous German woman who underwent a Catholic exorcism. It writes so that, they based a movie of the exorcism of Emily Rose on, and they did, medically she had temporal lobe epilepsy, but they kept trying to do these exorcisms to her, and it wasn't helping. So, I mean, in that case, what do you think was going on there? I mean, if they would have just treated it medically, I wonder sometimes if she would have come out of that. Instead, the family agreed to let the priest go on and on and on, and, she ended up dehydrating and all kinds of stuff. I mean, what are your thoughts on that as far as your study of translocation?
Well, I am happy that they didn't succeed, those priests, because if they had done an exorcism, that is actually a translocation, even if they sometimes ask the spirit, go to the light. I have observed that they don't go to the light. You cannot just say that. This is not that easy. You have to change something in yourself. And that is the only cure. So even if she had gone to a doctor and got some medication for this fits or epilepsy or whatever your diagnosis was, then it would have been passed on to others. If this priest had succeeded, it would have been passed on to others. The only one who can do anything to yourself is yourself. That is so important to understand.
Huh. Well, that's a heavy responsibility, Doc. I don't think people want to think about that, right? Like people,
they want to kill. Yeah.
Yeah, we take a victim mentality about a lot of things. About we're just natural victims, but that does answer if you think about it like this, right? Because people say, if there was a God, then why would such horrible things happen to children, the innocent, and babies, and things like that, right? If there was a God, why would God allow that to happen? Well, maybe it's not God allowing that to happen. Maybe it's our ignorance of what's really going on that's allowing that to happen.
Yes. You might say, let's say you have a child who is in the 3rd grade at school, and you think the teacher is terrible because he don't want to learn French or whatever. And then you say, why are my parents so cruel that put me in this school?
Yeah.
Because he is lazy and don't want to do his homework.
Yeah, I was one of those kids. Yeah.
Or you get criminal and put in prison and say, why are my parents so cruel that have brought me life? And this is not fun, you know? It is actually your actions that bring you to this. Although, of course, if you are born in very difficult situations like a slum area and you almost is bound to be a criminal, still it is your actions.
So in your book, you talk about translocation is often caused by the application of natural healing methods that we do, you know, when we go, let's say we go get a massage or something and something translocates into us. Maybe we don't know it, but in your book, you talk about understanding and using the middle point or Christ force can hinder translocation and further a transformation of adversarial forces. What is this Christ force that you speak of?
Yeah, well, several of my colleagues said you shouldn't call it a Christ force because the word Christ is sort of difficult today, especially in Europe, maybe not so much in America, I don't know. But the Christ force is actually what I mean by the transformative force, the transformation of the adversarial forces, as we have talked about. And then I was wondering from the beginning that now we start to come to how to deal with this problem, how to help patients. And that took me many years to start to realize, because when I saw these sort of adversarial forces in the body, they were always of two kinds. Always. It was a yin kind of pathological informational energy, and it was a yang kind. The yang always inhabited the human or the animal towards the head, and the yin always toward the pelvis or hind area.
Mm-hmm.
So every time, and one gave the deficient symptoms, and the other gave the excessive symptoms. The deficient symptoms is, for example, tiredness, muscles don't work properly, and so on. And the excessive symptoms are the pain and the fever and so on. So and almost all therapists, they treat the symptoms. They treat the pain. If you have a headache, you can either have a painkiller or 10 needles around the head or in the neck or in the fingers. It goes towards the problem, yes, or the deficient problem. So then I started to realize, and that always caused a translocation. So then I started to think, how can I deal with this? And that took me 20 years to find out, actually. So then I started to treat the middle between these two forces, exactly the middle where there were nothing wrong. You might compare it to when you go to a psychologist. Let's say you have a deficiency from your childhood, were abused, blah, 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 and then that is a deficient symptoms, and you develop aggressive behavior, that is the excessive symptoms. And then the psychologist can talk about you about the aggression and work with that, or he can talk about your abuse as a child or what that was. And that takes a long time, but he can also go in the middle and talk about what makes you happy, what makes this life good for you, and focus on what is good. And that is what I try to do in therapy. I actually started to activate the middle between these two adversarial forces. And the results were amazing because the adversarial forces started to transform. And why I call it the Christ force, or the Christ point, is that it's, on Golgotha, there were 3 crosses. It was the excessive cross. I damn you, or, the one.
The thief.
Thief, yeah.
Right.
The other was the deficient symptoms. And he said, I'm sorry, actually, can I come with you to heaven today? And then you had the middle, who actually transformed. And that was the Christ. And
one of them said, if you're the Christ, then why don't you save yourself, or why do you forgive those that persecute you? Right. And he was angry. And the other one was like, he said, well, can't you see that he's forgiven these people, that he's got to be of a higher love? And he said, well, you remember me when you come into your kingdom. And then Christ told him, he said, this day you'll be in paradise.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. You could see the both forces there. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And always in the middle is this Christ force. So when I found this, I was quite excited, because I first applied it in osteopathy. Because in osteopathy, you look at the body, you feel the body, and you feel here is tension, here is blockages, and here is a weakness. You always find this excess and deficiency in the body, always, with all pain. And when you just then went exactly in the middle, where there was nothing wrong, and I sort of, in inverted commas, treated the middle, or activated the middle, is better to say, then the 2 others did.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Listen, we're
you are just with some, and then I was so excited that I invited myself to the all-German osteopathic congress in Germany. That was Austria, Switzerland, and Germany, and I gave a lecture on that. I invited myself, and I asked the leader of this organization to try it on a patient. It was a patient there who had quite much problems, and she said, yeah, here is an excess, I would have treated that. Here's a deficiency, I would have treated that. And then I said, okay, treat in the middle. And she said, how can I treat in the middle? Because there's nothing wrong there. I cannot treat anything that is not wrong. And I said, okay, just try to treat it or activate it or whatever. So after a discussion, she did that, and immediately said, wow, both the other symptoms disappeared, or started to transform, is better to say.
Wow.
So then I expected to be asked to come again next year to this Congress, but I was not. Because there is a problem with treating the middle. Because treating the excess is a huge system. That is actually the whole school medicine, treating the system, treating pain, infection, and so on. And in alternative medicine, you have the same. You have craniosacral, you have acupuncture, you have systems that tell you how to do it or not to do it. If you treat the middle or activate the middle, you don't need these systems. And that takes the power away from all the teachers and the money away from all the schools.
Yeah, right.
So they didn't ask me back because it was too simple.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's some fascinating stuff right there. Imagine if that's all it really is, to get rid of all of this, all of the disease and all of what's going on with us, is just to treat that middle force inside of us, the Christ force. So we're at the top of the hour with Dr. Otto Thoresen, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
The Liberator Rocket Heater will heat your home for free. The highly efficient Liberator Rocket Heater has no moving parts. It's safe and strong, constructed of 1/4-inch steel. So like all things made in the USA, it's built to last. Uses any kind of wood, sticks, even scrap in its gravity-fed firebox. And it heats workshops, homes, garages, outbuildings, industrial areas, and barns. Watch the video of this blast furnace stove in action. Visit rocketheater.com. That's rocketheater.com.
Hey, this is Norway Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all of the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Have you ever seen an ad or banner which brought you a feeling that someone is reading your mind or even listening to your conversations? Your online data is being used against you. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable. You can use it on as many devices as you'd like simultaneously. Surfshark encrypts all internet traffic sent to and from your devices and ensures that your IP address remains hidden. The VPN service that we use at UFO Seekers, plus 1 month free for $1.99 a month. Visit surfshark.deals/seekers.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling. The ground shook. You could hear rushing water. And then, history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails. Stores with their shelves strip bare. ATMs can't operate. Deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand 3 truths. FEMA is broke. The system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137, now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247, now only $147 shipped in 1 business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
Hey, Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit BeyondTheStrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Abnormal News, I'm Brad Bernards. NASA's chief says he wants to step up flight opportunities for astronauts, according to a report in Space.com. In a tweet Friday, June 19th, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine said his space agency plans to drop a request for information to fly astronauts on commercial suborbital spacecraft. RFIs are competitive processes for NASA to make an informed choice between proposals from private companies based on qualifications it defines for participants. Bridenstine's announcement comes 3 weeks after NASA and SpaceX successfully flew astronauts into space. NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley piloted SpaceX's commercial crew vehicle Crew Dragon as part of the Demo 2 flight to the International Space Station. As the largest scientific instrument on the planet enters its twilight years, CERN scientists have been facing the question of what next after the Large Hadron Collider. Following extensive debate, The Guardian reports that they appear to have landed on an answer: go bigger or go home.
The Future Circular Collider, FCC, will be the next instrument that we have to build if we want to continue to be in the path of discovery.
There is a lot more to learn still, and we have to.
If we stop exploring, then basically we stop evolving.
Discovery of the Higgs boson was a big deal, but this is only the beginning of the story.
We scratched the surface, but we have clearly much more to discover.
Some question whether the scientific promise of the gigantic machine justifies the anticipated €20 billion price tag for construction. Connect with the news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS Hedron.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio here at the top of the hour with Dr. R. Thoresen, and we've been discussing translocation, also several stuff about spirits, demonology, the Christ Force, a lot of cool stuff actually that is really reminding me of a lot of stuff that I read about when it came to Daskalos, Dr. Thoresen. And again, thank you for, I know it's early in the morning over there, so thank you again for joining us. It's really a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you again.
It's a pleasure to be actually here too, yeah.
So now there's this thing that both Daskalos or Dr. Stylianos Ateşlis talked about, also that's understood in anthroposophy. Now I can't ever say that word. Anthroposophy, if that's right, with Rudolf Steiner, that talked about a lot of this, about the Etheric Devil, or it was called the Double. And you wrote about that too, actually, didn't you?
Yes.
So you believe that in our human bodies that we have an etheric double?
We have many doubles in our body. It's if you read the picture of Dorian Gray, it's a book from England. He described this picture of himself that developed through his life.
Yeah, that's a trivia story about Dorian Gray. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So
yeah, and that is actually a description of the double. All the mistakes or wrong things we do through life, they build up sort of a second man or a third man or a fourth man, whatever you might call it. And this double, we actually that is one of the doubles, especially important in what I work with demonology and medicine. But there are also other doubles. So when we are born, we also become host of a creature that is also called a double that need us to develop through life. So the double is actually a multifaceted expression or a multifaceted problem or a field of investigation. What is important is that when we live or think or act and so on, we influence our life force. That is called the etheric body. That is what actually makes us alive. And this change, if we do, after what we do, if we do correct things or nice things, it gets solid and without holes or black parts. Then we have that is the etheric double. Then we have the astral double, that is our feelings. If we get angry or jealous and all these things, that is our astral body. Then we have the spiritual double, which has to do with our eternal soul, our spirit. Then we have the not only double, we have, if we open to spirituality without having a sound sort of foundation, we can actually attract a totally different double. There is a circle in Europe, I will not say where and when and so on, but there is a circle of clairvoyants who meet once or twice a year, about 30 people. And they all more or less live from their clairvoyance. They write books, give courses, and so on, and are accepted as clairvoyant. When I was invited to this group once, to my astoundment, to my shock, I saw that about 80% of them were not clairvoyant actually in themselves at all. But if you want to be clairvoyant, if you want to be spiritual, you open up for things. You maybe, some use drugs, DMT or whatever. They open to it, and then a Ahrimanic or Luciferic spirit comes in as a double. And they give you the clairvoyance. You are not, but you are just a servant from these forces. And 80% of these 30 people, very well-known clairvoyants of Europe, they were not clairvoyant. And this is surely the case all over. So what we think is clairvoyance, and we think ourselves as being clairvoyant, we are servants of these double spirits. And then we give this further to others, and these spirits can make us see whatever they want, spaceships or aliens or this or that. and makes us feel very great and call ourselves great things like So this is this whole thing with the double and the doubles, the many doubles, that is also quite important in my work.
So when I was practicing out-of-body techniques from Robert Monroe's book, and I had an actual experience where I peeled myself out of my body and I saw myself sleeping. Like I saw the physical world the way it was. It was so real to me.
Yeah.
What double was I in there? Was that just my astral double?
It could have been, you see, these are the doubles, 5, 6, 7 types, but it is also yourself. So if you really, not with your double, but with your astral body, can go out and observe it, then it is true. It's real. That is actually what we strive to do. But you yourself might have problems in differing between, is this your real astral body, or is it your double astral body, or is it a luciferic or demonic spirit that just use you or deceive you? That is very, very difficult to know.
How do you know that? Is there a way to test it?
Well, I see the difference. I can see it. But there is, to my knowledge, not very good ways to test it. I talked with a very clairvoyant man once who had developed these things by his own self. And I said, how do you find? Oh, he said, that's quite easy for me. I ask this double or clairvoyant ability or whatever it is, are you of the good? Are you of the Christ? Are you of the middle? And if it's not, I can smell a certain smell of sulfur, he said. I was almost laughing a little. Because one thing is that these doubles, they cannot stand the Christ force. And that is reflected also in almost all old myths and fairy tales of Scandinavia. If you meet a spirit or whatever it is, and then you ask the spirit to confess to Christ, he cannot do it if he is of the adversarial forces. Quite interesting.
That is interesting. But the idea of, do you believe in the idea of Christ as it teaches in Christianity, or the idea of Christ as in like the researchers of truth, or Daskalos and Daniel Joseph, who believed it was a man named Yeshua? Or do you believe this idea of Christ is a force that's inside each and every one of us?
Yes, I believe Christ is actually many things. First, it is a real spiritual being who incarnated 2,000 years ago in the earth. And it is also a force that means that it is available to all of us. So it has several aspects, this Christ or Christ being or Christ force. Yes, I believe that.
Okay, so this is starting to kind of make a little sense to me then. I think the difference between, well, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you can explain this or not, but when you see this spirit or whatever it is that's translocating, what does it look like? Can you explain it at all?
Yeah, first time I saw it very clearly. I had been 1 year in practice in northern Norway as a veterinarian, and then I came home one evening, and my then wife had a friend there, a female friend sitting talking to, and then I came into the living room and I saw this strange structure halfway out of her head and halfway inside her head. A strange structure. It looked like nest of worms, you might say, sort of moving structure of many worms or snakes like that. And then I looked upon her and said, "What is wrong with you?" And she said, "Oh, I have a terrible headache now, or migraine. I don't know, remember exactly there." And I said, "You want me to help you?" "Yes," she said. Then I went to her and grabbed this structure with my hand and drew it out and stood with it in my hand. And she said, "Oh, now the headache is gone." I said. So I sort of let go of it, and it's straight back into her head. And she said, "Oh, now the headache is back." Then I took it again and went over to the window and threw it out, and she was cured. And she was very happy, and I was very happy at that time. But some years later, I start to ask myself, okay, I threw it out of the window. Where did it go? Did I cause somebody else to be sick? And that was the start of one of the thoughts I had in the start when I was dealing with translocation and these demonic entities. But if I had then at that time knew that I could have treated the middle in some way, I don't really know how to do that just then. And then it could have transformed or started the transformation and instructed her how to live or deal with this entity.
Okay. When was the first time you were able to see things like this, or when did you start noticing that you could see these things?
Oh, then I was 4 years old, but this was the first time I saw it, and in relation to a disease.
So what else can you see besides that? Like, can you see other things like elementals and?
Yes.
Really?
I have described quite much of that in some of my books. One book is I wrote as a sort of biography, self-biography. It is called Experiences from the Threshold and Beyond, where I tell about my whole life when I grew up and how I perceived these spirits or entities. Sometimes they even saved my life.
They saved your life. Huh? That's insane. Okay, so, all right. One time, I want to tell you about this one time. Maybe you can tell me what this was, all right? Back when I was trying these out-of-body experiences, Doc, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying this stuff. And I was listening to these tapes, that would get you in this relaxed vibratory state. And then I would try to peel myself out of my body. But this one time I did it, there was these, they looked like black, raw, like, you know what raw shack figures look like? Just black kind of like blobs that they were hovered over me. I could see through them a little bit, like little black clouds maybe. And as soon as I saw them, they came in and pushed me down. They pushed me back in my body, just like really fast. I mean, it happened so fast. And I always wondered what those were. I've had some people say, well, those were guides. And other people say, well, those couldn't have been guides. They shoved you back in your body. But I wonder what you think those might have been, just speculating here.
Oh, I think that were elemental beings, yeah.
And they can just shove you around like that, huh?
Yes, they can.
That's pretty freaky. I'm telling you guys, this is real. Like I know what I experienced. I know what happened, and it was kind of like I was halfway out of my body, like I was stuck, and I couldn't get the rest of the way out. And it's almost like as soon as these things saw me, they shoved me back in. I always think to this day, like, why would they be so quick to do that? Like, why do they even care? Why do they want to shove me back in?
You have many, many kinds of elemental beings. You are those who are not good, adversarial elemental beings, those who have connected to disease, as we have talked about, and also those who are connected to many other realms of existence. Sometimes they help you. Maybe they didn't want you to go out because you were not ready for it and pushed you in. Maybe they were adversarial who didn't want you to develop. I mean, it's very difficult to say. If you say only, I met a man in town and he gave me this book, was he kind or not? Well, I don't know. It depends how this book developed you. So these elementals or spirits are around us all the time. And you have an enormously, immense, vast variety of these beings. You have the elemental beings, you have the nature beings, you have the first elemental realm, second elemental realm, third elemental realm, you have the dead people, you have ghosts, you have angels, you have helpers, there are so many of these spiritual beings. They are all around us, and usually we don't see them. I see only a fraction. I'm not really that good. But quite enough for my liking.
Can we develop this sight that you have, like all of us, or is it something you believe that we're born with?
Well, I trained this thing since I was conscious, since I was 4 years old. I actually trained these things, and I have described that in a book I published actually this week. It's called The Northern Way of Initiation. Northern Way of Initiation. It comes available in 2 or 3 days on Amazon. I guess you can order it. And there I describe actually exactly how to pass the threshold and experience these things.
I'm interested in that. Like I'm definitely interested in that. So then if we go back, let's go back to try to go back in time here. There's a way, is there a way to see with the sight that you have into our past lives, like into where we come from and why we are here, things like that? Or do you even get into that field?
Yeah, when you start to go into the spiritual world, the first, at least when you follow the Northern Way of Initiation, there are 3 main streams of passing the threshold. It is the Northern Way, the Southern Way, and the Middle Way. And these are quite different. As I am a Northerner, I have my whole life used the Northern Way. This Northern Way is described in old sources like the saga of Parsifal and in the Finnish epos of Kalevala, if you have heard about that. But that is to merge, sort of separate the etheric from the astral. And when you do that, you sort of start to see all the spiritual beings of nature. Interesting, in the Northern Way, the first realm you get into is the demonic realm. So it sort of frightens quite many. These black, more darkish creatures. It can be also shining. So that is possible. Maybe that what you saw was actually the demons. And the first time I met demons, I was somewhat scared. But then I realized that they had actually no power unless you give them power. Fear is emotions, they feed from emotions. So if you have fear or hate or all these things, then they have access to your soul life, especially in advanced or political discussions. For example, when I watch friends from America these days, it seems to be very polarized. And that creates actually a lot of demons.
Wow. I want to continue this discussion. I already went past the break here. We got to take our last break. It's the shortest break of the night. We'll continue this discussion with Dr. R. Thoresen right when we come back. Stay with us.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of the Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Alex Exum.
This is Alex Exum of the Exum Experience in Live Talk, where we discuss current events, society, and culture. My shows are based in actuality, actual existence, contrasted with what was intended, expected, or believed. You can listen to me live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore. Because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit dbondhandymanformula.com. That's dbondhandymanformula.com or call 561-575-4200. Handyman Formula by D-Bond.
All right, so we're back here with Dr. R. Thoresen, and I just ordered the new book that you were talking about, which is fascinating to me that you were talking about what you saw, these black figures. So this is like, what is this? It's called the Northern Initiation. I just ordered it, and I don't even know the name of it yet. Let me look this thing back up.
Northern Way of Initiation.
Yeah, the Northern Way of Initiation. So during the break, though, you were talking to me about how not only did you run into these beings that were black or black and shiny, I guess demons, when you first go into this realm, you see these things. You said there were other things that you saw too. You were talking to me during the break, jinn, and I've had a guest, Nineveh Shadrach, who came on this show and talked to me about jinn, and he told me just that they were a lot of the jinn were responsible for a lot of what we call paranormal activity, that they could interact between this world and the other. And what did you find when you ran into them? Were they just as scary as these things, or what happened?
I have met them only twice. One in the case in the patient, and the other I was driving with this sand dune driving in the Arabian desert. We stopped for a while close to a camp, a Bedouin camp. And then I saw, a few hundred meters away, a gang of jinns passing by. It was about 10, 15 of them. I will describe them later. And then I looked at them because I never seen that before. You see, the elemental beings in each culture and each country is very different. The elemental beings in Norway are very different from those in America, very different again from South America, and so on. So I'd never seen these jinns before. And I looked at them, and the leader, he saw that I saw them, and I don't like that. So he turned and came towards me and stood just half meter from me. And usually I have never been weak. I can always push elementals away. I have never been scared of them. I have that much sort of strength, but this one I couldn't. And he came onto me. He was standing looking in my face 10 centimeters away, and he was fierce looking. You know, these jinns are terrible looking. If you look up the descriptions of jinn in this book 1001 Nights, it is quite exact. So I tried all methods to get him away, and then in the end I did a very secret sign. It's called the sign of Michael, or Saint Michael. And then he went away and vanished into the sandy dunes. Then I came back to the hotel, and then there was a group of Arabs sitting there, you know, in their white dresses and their cloth on the head, and they were drinking coffee and smoking. In this area, they don't actually work. The owners of the country, the Arabic people, it's only immigrants who work. And then I talked with them, and I said, "Do you know about this gang of jinns out there?" And they looked at me with big eyes and said, "Did you see them? I thought they were only visible to us, Arabian." "No, I did see them." "Oh, they are dangerous. They are dangerous. The desert is a home of evil," they said.
Oh, God.
So, and then a few years later, I was giving a course in Germany in this how to deal with demons in disease. And there was one woman there who said, "Can you help me?" It was a group of 30 students maybe, because all my family died from cancer. My father died from cancer, my mother died from cancer, my horse died from cancer, and horses very seldom get cancer. My dogs died from cancer, and I have got cancer. And I said, okay, then I turned off on my sort of clairvoyance, like I describe in this book, The Northern Way of Initiation. And then I saw she was inhabited by a jinn. And I thought, wow, this is very seldom here in Europe. And how did you get this jinn? And she said, I don't know, but you have to know, because the only way actually to transform is to go into a transformation. And these jinns are the result of, as I said earlier, bad actions or so on and so on. I have seen very many in America due to the slaughter of the red man and the slavery. There are thousands of demons because of that. But then she came the day after and said, yes, now I know where it came from, because the brother of my father, he went into the Foreign Legion, the French Foreign Legion in Africa. And he did some terrible things in Morocco to the Bedouins there. And there this jinn came to him and first killed him. Then it went to his brother, killed him. Then to the brother's wife, killed her. Then it killed off the horses and dogs of their daughter, and then it came to their daughter. So when she understood that and was able to sort of ask forgiveness in the name of her uncle, it dissolved.
So this was like a generational curse, huh? That from a jinn.
Yes. They never disappear, these demons, unless they are transformed. And the best way of transforming is to know what it is created them and ask forgiveness or do some remorse or things.
So you ran into these black figures, demons, shiny ones, then the jinn. Then after you gave it the sign, it went away.
Yes.
I got to read this book, but what was after that? Did you get past all of the scary stuff? I mean, there's something. Does it happen in levels like that?
Yeah, there are thousands of different kinds of demons and elemental beings and so on. So you just have to face that reality and deal with it. And don't get scared.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Like, I don't know. I'm almost afraid to read this book. I got to tell you, because I know I'm going to try. I want to see this stuff for myself. I know that probably sounds bad to some people, but I mean, maybe if we can all take a peek into these realms and see, then we'll know, that would actually empower us, I would think.
Oh, yes. And then you will also understand the translocation in disease, and then you will understand that the whole medical system is actually in vain.
That's going to be a messed up realization. I already kind of feel like the medical system's messed up to begin with, but I mean, this just kind of validates things for me even more. And well, let's talk about some positive things maybe here.
Let's try.
Yeah. Like what good things have you seen in these realms? Have you seen like angels or angelic realms or any heavenly beings or bodies or places?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that is the other side of, you see, when you start to enter into the elemental realms or the spiritual world, the first you meet is the problem, is the demonic. When you can come through that, it's like Divina Commedia, Dante's, Divina Commedia, Dante.
Yeah, Dante's Divine Comedy, right.
1300. When he described this, what is the first section of his Divina Commedia? That is hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then he comes to Purgatorio. First it is what is called a hell. It's called, three parts. First hell, then Purgatorio, and then heaven. And he meets his Beatrice again. And also in all these books about these things, first you have to endure the suffering. Then you are cleansed, and then you can come to the sort of more heavenly realm. So that is when you are born, first you have to suffer to be a little child. You have to go to school, you have to do all your mistakes. And when you're over 60, like I am, you think, oh, how lovely it is to be old. Like the Swedish poet Fröding said, it is so beautiful to be old. It was too damn to be young.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is a lot of suffering. There's really no doubt about it. If I think about all the stuff in my childhood, even the dreams that I had were terrible, just bad dreams, uncontrollable nightmares, things that, it was bad.
But it gets better and better. So you have to start. So this to go into the spiritual world is sort of being born again, or in another way, and then you have to go through this suffering. You don't get anything just happiness and for free. Think about those who are stigmata. They suffer. Always it is connected to a certain suffering to start on this way.
That's a trip.
If you're ready for that, then read the way of initiation.
Okay. Even in like books, I was speaking to Lon Milo Duquette earlier this week, who's a ceremonial magician, but he wrote a book about the astral light. And he even said, when he learned how to astral project, when he learned how to get out of his body, then the first realms he would see were usually like bad, dark type of things. And he said, I had to learn how to pass through them quickly.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
you see, that is, again, a little mistake. You shouldn't learn how to pass them quickly. You should actually stay there as long as you must and learn and transform and learn the transformative. We are so afraid of suffering and darkness. When I had this back injury, it took me 20 years to go past it, but I didn't push it. And that is very important when you come to these dark realms. Don't think, oh, I have to pass this quickly, because they are there for you. It's not by chance that you go through these dark realms first. That is divine knowledge, divine, divine insight, divine God's will or whatever. It's not to torture us that you go through that. So we shouldn't have that thought to go through it as quickly as possible. Just a comment.
That's scary to me, though, to think, well, let's stick around. I had a false awakening one time. Do you know what a false awakening is?
No.
It's where you get trapped in a dream, and and you keep waking up, and you think you're awake, but you're not, and you keep waking up, and okay, I'm awake now, but you're not. And it's like a dream over and over again. Same thing. And I remember towards the end of it, there was this being thing that was just like you were talking about. But I kind of stretched my head and looked up, and I saw that it was hovering over my face, like 4 or 5 inches from my face. And it freaked me out so bad. I just jerked my head to the right, and I was like, oh, God, like, what is that? My heart was speeding up. I didn't want to even face it. But I vibrated the name of Yeshua, like something I learned from Daskalosis teachings, or just, I don't even know if he taught that. I just felt like that's what I needed to do. And I could feel this thing move away from me. It felt like something was moving, what it feels like when you're in the water and something moves by you, And then I actually did wake up. So I felt, it made me think later, like, whatever this thing was, it was trapping me,
But that was actually yourself. The most important thing when you enter these realms is to be brave. That is the most important. Don't have fear, because fears just disturb everything of this. You have to just be calm, watch it, and then they have no power over you, and then you can learn and go further.
No matter how terrifying they look, right?
Yeah, I saw an old painting just a few days ago from 1400 about how Dante came out from Inferno. Inferno was it called the first part, and quite interesting. You saw the devil's claws after him, and he walked there together with Virgil, his guide, and it was commented, "Look how calmly he walks. He don't run out of hell. He goes quietly and steady, looking around, no haste, no." That is so important. It's like you meet a bear in the forest. If you turn around and run, you know you are killed.
Yeah. Yeah, or you got to outrun the next person, right? That's what you got to do.
Yeah, if you stand quietly, just look, it might go very well. Then the bear stands for 10 minutes looking at you, and then it turns around.
Have you ever met a bear in the woods like that?
No.
Because it's easy to talk about, right? Until one of them, some bitches stand straight up and it's 12 foot tall screaming at you, and then you're supposed to just chill out. But I get what you're saying, right? Like, yeah, I totally get that. So I'm taking it that all of this, what you study is it's kind of like a form of what Rudolf Steiner talked about, like this deeper understanding of what Christianity is in these occult realms, right? But so do you believe that consciousness transfers from the elemental realm into the animal kingdom and then into humans?
That was a difficult question. What?
Well, because I read something from Rudolf Steiner about that, about how there's the elemental realm, the animal kingdom realm, and then humans. And like there was these, maybe it wasn't Rudolf Steiner, could have swore it was though. And there's these, like consciousness is growing through that, like elements, plants, animals, and then human.
Well, you have the elemental realm, then you have the material realm, then you have the plant realm, you have the animal realm, you have the human realm, you have the angelic realm, and so on. And the consciousness is, of course, in everything, but it is different. The consciousness of a plant is different from a human. The consciousness of a stone is different. The consciousness in the elemental realms, and so on. The consciousness between humans are also very, very different. Some have this consciousness, others have that consciousness. Some only think about women, some think about Maria.
Yeah.
And you might call it a growing consciousness, but that is maybe to put yourself above. I think I would say it's just a different consciousness.
Gotcha.
But you could say growing, but I'm not really sure that is a good way. That is a little to put yourself above, probably.
Well, it made me think, like, are we in a constant state of becoming? Like, is the human becoming something larger than a human?
Yes, absolutely.
Are we becoming angelic, or are we becoming something different?
In a long, long time, yes, we will have the powers or consciousness of the nowadays angels.
Uh-huh.
And in the further time, the consciousness of the archangels, and the further time, the higher angelic beings, seraphim, cherubim, and so on.
And I guess my last question for you would be, do you believe that, and I ask this just to everybody that kind of studies this stuff, do you believe that each and every person has a holy guardian angel or one specific angel that looks over them?
About 9 different.
We got about 9 different angels. Okay. Yeah, because some people believe that we have an angel that looks over us that has a certain name, right?
Yeah, they all have.
but you know what I'm saying? That's different from the archangels, like a specific angel that looks over you. But that's all right.
Yes.
I'm just curious. I'm sure I'll find all about that as I read your books too. So
there is a very old rhyme, nursery rhyme in Norway, who say, this little child lies in his bed, 2 angels stands at his side, 1 at the head, 1 at the feet, total of 9. And if you look at the Bible, they often are in pairs. You know, at the grave, there were 2 angels coming, 1 at the head, 1 at the feet. There are actually not only 1, we have about 9 entities looking after us.
Wow. Well, thank you for coming on. That we have to get out of here, but thank you for coming on the show. I'm probably would want to have you come back after I read some more of your books here, because I'm super interested in it, and I really do appreciate you coming on the broadcast.
Thank you.
You guys, I will leave all of the show notes there, the links to Dr. R. Thoresen's work, his website as well. Thank you guys for listening tonight. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable that's coming up next. Also want to give a big shout out to Pacho, my producer, the Fringe FM team, the patrons, and the music was by Stevie and Chronox. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings right here live on the Fringe FM. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.